Welcome to the Global Marketing Show, where we explore how language and culture impact global business. I'm Wendy Pease, your host and president of Rapport International. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Global Marketing Show. I'm so happy that you've joined us. And before we jump into introducing Jessica Reynolds, who is our guest today, I want to remind you that our tidbit is brought to you by Rapport International, a company that provides high quality written translation and spoken interpretation in over 200 languages. And so today's tidbit is about interpreters, those people that help facilitate spoken interpretation. Guess how long the profession of interpreting has been around? They say it's the second oldest profession. The linguists at Wake Forest University claim to have found evidence of the use of interpreters in the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt. That's a 3,000-year history of using interpreters to communicate to languages. So hats off to all the interpreters that are out there. You really do have an incredible skill set. So our guest today is Jessica Reynolds. She's a senior director for the Office of International Investment and Trade at the Maryland Department of Commerce. In this role, she led the office to expand its offerings to include a comprehensive foreign direct investment program for the state and to develop new innovative programs such as the Maryland Innovation Lab, the Global Gateway Program, and the Soft Landing Exchange Program. So welcome, Jessica. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit more about what your office does and the programs that you've started?
Absolutely. Our office has 3 areas of responsibility for the state of Maryland. We are responsible for promoting exports from the state. We are also responsible for attracting foreign direct investment into the state of Maryland. And we also have a role to play in international marketing for the state when it comes to business attraction. With regards to some of the programs we've developed over the last few years, we were very lucky to have the opportunity to do that. The Global Gateway Program is a foreign direct investment program that we created. It's incentive for foreign companies to choose Maryland over other locations they might be looking at. We're a pretty small state, and we don't, even though we're working on that international marketing, we don't always have that international name recognition. And so the Global Gateway Program is an opportunity for us to put a little extra sweetener into the opportunity for companies to come and choose Maryland. So what the program is essentially it's a incentive for foreign companies who might be coming into the U.S. to choose one of several incubators who are participating in our program for a 6-month period. It gives them what I call sort of a free trial of the state. The incentive is that we pay for their participation in the program for 6 months. So they get their space, their office space. They get different services that the incubator may offer, such as networking events, guidance from entrepreneurs and residents, different mentoring types of programs, training, things like that. Just like they would in, a startup would receive in a business incubator. But for them, they're starting up in the U.S., so they need similar services. And the incubators across the state of Maryland in all different regions have an interest in attracting more foreign companies into their incubators to provide more breadth to their local ecosystem. And they have offered to provide that service for foreign companies coming in. So we have this great partnership with our local incubator system and with the foreign companies who choose to apply and participate in this program. It's one of our, I would say, probably the flagship new program we've developed recently.
And this podcast is downloaded in close to 80 countries. And so if you're in another country and you're interested in coming into the United States, this is certainly something. And at the end, we'll provide Jessica's contact information for anybody who wants to learn more about the incubator program. That's great. Okay, so then the next program?
Yes, so we also created something interesting when we were looking at foreign direct investment and just ways to be creative as a state agency, and how can we help bring more international companies in? How can we spur innovation, which is a top topic in economic development these days? And we had the opportunity to visit an innovation lab in London in 2021. They had developed this innovation lab. We had the opportunity to sort of see it in action when we were there for a trade mission, and sort of spurred our interest in creating one here for Maryland. So what we have done, we're the first state in the country to set up this innovation lab, sort of a publicly sponsored innovation lab, where we're working with the World Trade Center Institute here in Maryland as our partner, and we're also working with LMARCS, which is the innovation partner based in London who has developed this methodology for the innovation labs, and they have several around the world. We worked with these partners to set up an opportunity for Maryland companies who are looking to workshop innovation within their companies to participate in this lab. So they become sponsors. The state of Maryland is putting funding into this program to bring the cost down from what would normally be sort of $1 million level investment for a single company to develop an innovation lab in-house to something much, much less than that. We're talking a fraction, 10% or less of that cost for a Maryland company to participate in an innovation lab. And then once they're a sponsor through the program, we scout startups from around the world. Well, first we identify the type of innovation they're looking for. Are they looking to develop more sustainable packaging? Are they looking to, make, well, our current cohort is focused on affordability and decarbonization. So how do they help their companies decarbonize but make it affordable? And looking at these different solutions, and then we scout globally for startups who might be able to provide some of these solutions. They apply and they have the opportunity to pitch to the sponsors here in Maryland. And then after they pitch, if they're selected, they get to work in a 10-week lab with the Maryland sponsors to sort of perfect the technology for the problem they're trying to solve. And the goal is that ultimately we would have one or possibly more startups per Maryland company providing a direct solution at the end of the day. The startups win. They may be coming from all over the world. Our Maryland companies win as they're able to, expand sort of further innovation in some areas that they're working on. We feel like the state wins because we're helping to drive this innovation and help make this match. So that's something kind of different and creative we've been doing lately as well. It's been kind of exciting. We were the first state to set this up, and it's my understanding some other states are looking to copy us on this.
Oh, congratulations. That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. And then and so is there any kind of solution you're looking to solve now that a global startup should reach out to you about?
Well, we're always looking to have more. Startups should definitely reach out to me because we have the Global Gateway program, and we're always looking to welcome more companies into our ecosystem. I would say Maryland's economy has been really driven by, everybody says driven by innovation, but there are some very specific high-tech industries that Maryland has been well known for. Life sciences, for one, we're the third largest cluster in the United States for life sciences, which many people may not know. Cybersecurity, we're a top hub for cybersecurity, and we are now driving towards becoming the capital of quantum. So, in certain sectors, I would say startups should definitely reach out to us because not only do we have the Global Gateway program, which would help them to locate in Maryland and is sort of unique for any startup, but also because of some of the locational assets we have in certain sectors, there could be a real match, and we're really looking to drive and grow in what we're calling lighthouse sectors for the state.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I knew the whole life sciences out in California. Of course, I know Boston because I'm located in that area. I didn't realize that Maryland was third, so that's good to know.
Number 3.
But that's a huge area, and there's so many resources in that Maryland, DC, Virginia area, and a lot of good schools and education. So when you said it, it made sense to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then what's the third program that you tell us about that?
Sure. So the third program is on the export side. So the first one was foreign direct investment. Maryland Innovation Lab is sort of cross-cutting. And then we have the soft landing exchange program. This was in response to, making sure our Maryland companies have the same opportunities that we have developed for some of the foreign companies coming in. So in addition to, providing an incentive for foreign companies coming here to land in incubators, we also wanted to provide an opportunity for those Maryland companies who work with us when they are ready for that next level, not just their first excursion into a new market, but when they've identified that market where they need to really dig in and grow, that we can provide them with a similar opportunity. So we also have this program which allows companies can apply for a similar level of funding, $10,000 of funding towards participation in a foreign incubator program. We have developed a network of partners where we've met with them. We've made sure that they're like a real place, that they offer real services. We've developed a relationship so that our companies have a place that they can, with some funding from us, go and participate in this program for 6 months in order to allow them to really, like I said, sort of dig into that market, spend the time to go meet with companies, partners, distributors, clients, and build their market. Because what we find when we're working with both exporters and foreign direct investment prospects is that we always have this chicken and egg problem, right? People want to get the sales, get the results, but they're hesitant to invest the time to get those results. And so it's like, well, I'll invest when I get my first client. Well, how are you going to get your first client if you're not investing the time? So these
So well said. I mean, that is definitely, you described that circle that I've seen. I've never heard anybody say it so well. Usually it's like, oh, you need to invest 2 years and you really got to get to know the market and the people there. But that's the quandary as a business leader that you have to go through. Well said.
Right. Yeah. So that's why we've created these programs, these sort of partner programs, if you will, one for foreign investors and one for our exporters, to make it a little easier for them to get over that hurdle of, or out of that cycle of chicken egg. Okay, you're making it easier for me. You're providing me with a little funding. You're providing me with a trusted partner. There's a place for me to go and work. There's a place for me to get some services in the market and make it easier.
Yeah, I love that. So you've worked with that's been going on for a little while now, and you've got different markets. Tell me about some stories of customers who have gone through the program and done well.
So we have a range of export programs, actually, that what we do is we try to pair them up. This is sort of on the export side. So we have a direct grant program for export marketing called our Export MD program. We also have a network of 19 foreign offices that can provide free assistance to our Maryland companies who are looking to export, market research, distributor partner search, this sort of thing, some meetings set up in country. We also take companies with us to trade shows, heavily subsidized, making it easier for small companies to access a trade show that might otherwise seem just too overwhelming. And we set up meetings for them at that show. And that's in addition to, other programs we have where we work with U.S. Commercial Service, University of Maryland, and we have also now this newer soft landing exchange program. So we have I've been with Commerce for 14 years, so we've worked with dozens and dozens of exporters over the years. But a few that stand out to me, we have had some that have worked with us over several years and really taken that journey, if you will, from I think I'm interested in exporting to actually being a successful exporter. And if anything, sometimes we have to be like, you're ready to graduate from our services. So, but that's great. That's what we want to see, right? This is the type of work where you want to work yourself out of a job. So we've had, one company I can think of is a medical device company that, had been working with us for several years, was trying to do advanced marketing in Europe. They did do advanced marketing in Europe, but it took several years before they finally got through the full regulatory process. But once they did, because they had done that advanced marketing, they were able to make sales right away and really sort of take off with their exporting. there were also companies that, were making like cosmetics starting off in their kitchen, really looking for they were in a very niche market, working with, women of color and wanting to have specific products that worked better for them and looking for the right markets. And through our services, where, most often I would say is our direct grant program that almost all companies take advantage of. They were able to attend trade shows in the market that they were looking for, to get a greater market, and have been able to expand now in several markets and go to some major trade shows. Even though that wasn't a trade show, we took them to, we helped fund their ability to get there. Then we also have kind of on the other end of the scale, companies that are more in one of our other lighthouse sectors, aerospace defense, that, were pretty small companies we were working with, when they're early on. And as they've worked with us over the years and gone to some of the bigger trade shows with us, taken advantage of our relatively small grant, they have reached a point where they are we're talking sales of, multi-million-dollar sales, sometimes 20 million plus sales for some of these small companies. Now, granted, that's defense, so it's a different sort of defense, aerospace. There are different kinds of contracts, but we have it runs the gamut, if you will. And it's really been exciting to see working with some of these companies, especially with an economy like Maryland, where we have a lot of inventors, right? We have a lot of innovation happening here. We have a lot of R&D happening here. And to see some of these products moving through the pipeline over the years into the US market, but then further into the international market, has been really great. There's another company that is in wound care, and a great example of how it's just so great for us to see this Maryland-grown product get out there. This is a really novel wound care product that, as a result of getting out into the market, is saving lives in war zones and similar places. So, we're so lucky to be able to work with these companies and these really just impressive inventors that we have here in the state. And that's one of the fun parts of what we do here.
I love the different examples that you have that cover so many different industries. What industries do you work best with? Or maybe the question is what industries would you not work with?
We don't really have a restriction outside of what's legal. So as long as it's a legal company, they're selling a legal product, we're happy to work with them. We do receive for our export program some federal funding. So some of the federal funding may have some more restrictions, but we have state funding as well. So, even companies who are involved with cannabis, we have to make sure they're using only state funding, but we still work with those companies, for example.
Okay. And then I would imagine anybody I was going to say a local restaurant, but if they have a specialty barbecue sauce or seasoning or something, they could still work with you. So maybe
as long as it's an export. And sometimes people don't realize that the definition of an export is anything that's bringing foreign currency into the United States, or in our case, the state of Maryland. So that means education. Foreign students are an export. So foreign students coming to Maryland universities, that's an export for the university, because they are paying tuition, and that's foreign currency coming in, right? That's the direction we want the money to flow from our perspective. Tourism is also an export in a way, because you have foreign tourists coming and spending their money here. Their foreign currency is coming into the economy. So that is something people don't always realize when it comes to exports. So we are supportive of any product or service that is essentially bringing money flow into the state. That is our goal.
Okay, so you'll even work with tourism companies to help spread the word internationally, or target visitors from other countries.
And we've worked with private schools who are trying to increase number of international students. Even just K through 12 schools. We've worked with them before. So it's a pretty wide range. I would say that there's sometimes a little bit different angle to the market research in order to be successful, but those are still exports.
What about mistakes you've seen? So we've heard about some of the successes. It always helps to hear too what some of the failures are and what their mistakes were.
Yeah, well, I would say one of the things that the most challenging for us is that we do prioritize working with small companies. That is in part due to our federal funding that is focused on small companies, and also because those are the companies that usually need the most help. But I would also say that small companies sometimes need to do a little more homework to be export ready, to be ready to take that next step. We do try to guide them towards that, but we have found that companies will sometimes think that they're ready for a big trade show, or think that they're ready to jump into a market, or try to do too many markets at once. And it can usually result in them being discouraged because they didn't get what they were looking for. So, going into a major trade show, let's say something like the Paris Air Show. This is one of the largest air shows in the world. You've got Boeing, you've got Lockheed, you've got all of the biggest global players. And our small companies want to be able to sell into those supply chains, of course. And we do what we can to help them be prepared and to help set meetings. But there is some advanced work that needs to be done in terms of, working with your existing suppliers, or making sure that your product is something that's going to work for that company or that supply chain, or it's going to be very difficult or sometimes impossible to get the meeting. So we recommend that companies take it a step at a time. Begin with some market research, maybe working with some other companies that you already work with, partnering with them to start to build those international relationships. Doing some outreach in advance of a show is also important, to try and, gauge interest. So you aren't just flying all the way there and counting on like one big meeting that may or may not happen. Doing some of this type of work, and that can sometimes take some time. I mean, some of this may be over the course of years. We're always really happy when companies get excited and enthusiastic, and we want to help them run with that momentum. But it's just a balance, right, between making sure you kind of do that homework in advance and don't run headlong into something you're not quite prepared for. But keeping up that motivation and seeing success along the way. And we, of course, our team is happy to work with companies to try and provide that guidance as well.
And so along with mistakes, which I think you articulated really well, is you need to prepare. The other area that I see is fears. What kind of fears do you talk to people when they're doing this, trying to export?
Sure. Well, there's a whole wide range, and they're not, they're not unfounded. There's, depending on the market, sometimes there's fears around, intellectual property. Well, if I go into a foreign market, will my product start to be copied? Well, you do want to do your research and think about that. And luckily, our District Export Council here in Maryland has a lot of great experts who, some of them are involved with intellectual property. So that might be some place that we would, direct a company if they're looking for, I'm super scared, how would I take a first step? And our District Export Council, or our DEC, has provided some great guidance to people over the years, just to help them kind of at least take the first step of thinking through it and what they need to consider. Also, just like, am I going to get paid? And that's a legitimate fear as well. So, but we have resources for that also. The Export-Import Bank, for example, can help companies to provide terms or provide insurance for exporting. So there's some resources there also. Probably it does come up, just do they have the time and money to invest? And what if it just doesn't work, right? I mean, this is kind of a common fear in almost any new endeavor. And that's why we try to provide a wide range of wraparound services to help make it a little bit more attainable and maybe a little less scary. And that's also why we do recommend companies do that work, do that homework, to be export ready, to have done your research and be prepared. And we do have some resources to help companies in those very, very early steps as well. Our team will counsel companies, but we also recommend working with the small business development centers and, again, the DEC. There's a whole wide range of resources out there that can help companies just for those different fears, at least talk to someone who can help them. And regulatory, actually, that's another big one for our companies, with so many life science companies, defense-related companies. Regulatory There's export controls for, possible defense, aerospace, cyber companies. They need to think about regulatory, just being able to sell your product in the market. How long is it going to take if you're a medical device company, for example, to be able to sell into the EU? But again, we have a number of people we can call and get our companies connected with for all of these fears. So it might not completely alleviate the fear, but at least we can help companies get the full information and be prepared to know what they have to deal with and start to break that down step by step.
Yeah, fantastic. I love how you not only listed the fears, but then all the other resources that you can pull in to help with whatever particular issue they're talking about. Yeah, that was interesting. How about language and culture? I mean, you can't do marketing without adapting for that. So how do you recommend companies handle that, or what have you seen?
Sure. Well, that's an area where some of our services do help directly. So our foreign offices, I mentioned, we have 19 of them, which cover more than 19 markets. Some of them cover multiple countries. They can provide assistance, especially on the culture, or at least the initial outreach, in terms of overcoming that language barrier for some initial outreach. And in some cases, they can also accompany the companies if needed to help provide support. And then the other is our Export MD direct grant program, which allows companies, interpretation and translation, like of your website or marketing materials, are eligible expenses under that program as well. So, again, it is something where you might want to look at the market. We do have companies who might start with markets where they don't have to worry about translation. Sometimes that is something that they might do. And I will admit that we at the Department of Commerce, we have limited international marketing funds, and we did the same. So, in some of the markets we were looking at, we started with the English language ones, just, if you have so much money, and, try and build off of that. But certainly it is an important factor. And, once you are getting, seeing some traction, or if that is a market is going to be a logical market for you, you are going to want to, invest in finding someone who can assist you with the interpretation for in-person meetings and things like that, to make sure you're, for you as a company, if you're going to get to the point of negotiating terms and everything, you don't want to be mistaken in any way, right, just for a language barrier. So, we would recommend making sure that you have those resources. But I would say it's so much easier these days than it used to be. You can, I have seen people just immediately pull out the Google Translate, not necessarily me, but I was saying like the other party, just like, I'm just going to Google Translate this, something that didn't exist even when I was a student. So it's fascinating how many tools and resources are out there these days. But certainly recommend translating your website and marketing materials to any market that you're really looking to target, if that's necessary. And, while we can help you initially, looking into getting a trusted partner for interpretation in market if you're starting to have some consistent in-person meetings and language as a barrier.
Yeah, I think you pulled out a lot of good information there on Google Translate is absolutely fantastic. I mean, to have that so easily accessible when you're in market and you need to figure out something quickly. But if you're going to do your client visit, or pardon, anything important,
for meetings.
No.
Yeah, let me asterisk that.
Yeah. Not for meetings, not for legal contracts, not for regulatory, but to get by or to figure out. Yeah. So just the access to language assistance is so great. When you were talking about picking a place to go, the different programs you have, the fears and all the resources like the DEC, the District Export Council, XIM, where should somebody start if they're, getting some international traction and they want to do more? Where do they start with getting help?
The best place for people to start is anywhere, actually, because we do export outreach with a number of our partners. So at least in Maryland, we work well together. We know all of our different partners and what their resources are, and they know ours. And so what we say is that there's no wrong door for an exporter. We want you to come to us. We want you to come to the Export-Import Bank. We want you to go to the District Export Council. And wherever you come to first, we are going to help you if we are the best first place for you, or redirect you to the right partner. That is sort of our goal, that wherever an exporter comes in, they will eventually land at the right place to start, or the right place for where they are in their export journey. So I do feel like that is important. And a lot of these services are available at least across the United States. There are district export councils across the United States. Export-Import Bank serves the entire United States. And if you are in another country, there probably is a similar in economic development office like mine that is responsible for supporting local companies. So I would start there and see what resources are in your local area.
Thank you so much. And thank you for remembering to include the international people who are interested in doing that too. All right. I normally prepare guests for this question so they have time to think about it. I would tell you on the prep call that I'm going to ask you your favorite foreign word. And since we prepped before we got on here and we were talking about some of the other things, I forgot to ask you about your favorite foreign word. So I'm putting you on the hot seat right now. And favorite foreign word, foreign can be defined in any language. So I've had people have English words and then many other languages across the word. So how's it feel to be on the hot seat and answer the question, what's your favorite foreign word?
Well, this one is easy for me because it was one of the most difficult words for me to be able to say in French. And it is, now watch me say it wrong, but terroir, sort of like there isn't it. I like it because there's not an exact translation in English, but it's like the flavor of the land, almost like. So you would say, like, if you have a cheese from France, you might say, oh, yes, I can get to the terroir of this cheese. I can tell it was from this place. So I did that once with my daughter, and she told me, so you're telling me this is dirt cheese? I was like, well, I guess you could put it that way. But you can taste the flavor of the land and the place in that very specific location. And so I kind of love that word. And it's hard to say. And I was proud of myself when I could say it.
How do you spell that?
I think it is, let's see, without writing it down, Terroire, I think. Terroire. Terroir. I think that's right.
Terroir.
I might have to double check the spelling, to be honest with you.
All right. I took, high school French, and you should see how I mangled that up. So, all right. I love that word. That's a new one. And I love ones that don't have a direct translation. So,
okay. Me too. I like
Jessica, is there any, pardon?
I like those too. When there's no direct translation, it means you have a good reason to incorporate some foreign language into your life.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So if you ever have any other ones, or any listeners ever have them, send them over to me on social media, because I do collect them. I'll invent a language with words that can't be translated from different languages. So do you have any final words of advice for people who are thinking about doing global marketing or cross-border trade?
The last thing I would say is just remember that there are so many resources out there to help you. I used to have someone on my team, he retired, but he had started up his own company and was doing international marketing in the 80s and 90s. And what he would always say in our outreach sessions is he was like, you have no idea how easy you have it. Just use the resources available to you. So just use what's there. There's so much at your fingertips.
Okay. And where can people reach you if they want to enter Maryland, or export from Maryland, or find your associates in another state?
Sure.
Or country.
So I'm at the Department of Commerce. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also email me. It's jessica.reynolds@maryland.gov. And my phone number is 443-799-1481.
Okay, thank you. And we'll put that on the show notes too for anybody that's interested in finding it. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. This has been really interesting to hear. I had no idea of the breadth of resources that Maryland offered. So you've done a lot.
Yes, we try to be small but mighty.
Small but mighty. Well, you are. Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Global Marketing Show. And please give us a 5-star rating or follow us or share this episode with any business owner or leader that you know in Maryland that may be interested in expanding outside of the country and exporting. And just a reminder that my second book, which I co-wrote with Hannah Pence, is releasing in November of 2025, and it's called The Secrets of Global Sales. And the chapters are based on episodes of the podcast. And Jessica spoke at one point about failures, and one of the important things is preparation. And the first section of the book actually talks about preparation. So if you want to read about some other people's experiences and then refer to the podcast, you can do that. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Global Marketing Show. We started this podcast to capture the stories of people who do global marketing and work for companies that export, since those companies have higher revenues, higher profits, higher valuations, higher salaries, and more stability, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And if you know somebody who would be a good guest, introduce them to me, your host, Wendy Mackenzie Pease. If you'd like to learn more about global marketing or language translation and interpretation, visit Rapport International's Resource Center at www.rapport translations.com. Au revoir. Hasta luego. Ciao for now.